continue now speaking with some of these folks who make the opportunity to open a brewery or expand a brewery happen. Tony Bowker, Director of Business Development for Bank of the West. Welcome.
Good afternoon. It was good to hear the plug for Live Oak, who have been tremendous partners and supporters of the industry and all around the country. We take over about where they leave off, where they cap out. So.
Okay, well that's great. I was talking with a company that you guys are partnered with last night, Golden State Ciders.
Indeed.
Nice couple, really working to make some big moves in the industry.
Well, the great opportunity for me, I'm relatively new to banking, but I came out of the beer industry, and that while for most bankers they're looking for high revenues, high growth, and a long history of financials, that I can get a little deeper into brewers that are growing. I mean, not startups, but or cider makers, and that are establishing a track record and have the resources and the plan to grow, and engage with them a little earlier in the life cycle.
Yeah, no, that's got to be exciting. You said you came out of the beer business. What were you up to before this?
Well, my major experience in the beer business, I was with Goose Island for many years in Chicago.
Sure. And what were you doing there?
Well, I was Chief Operating Officer through 2012. I started with Goose Island as a customer in 1989 when the brew pub that turned out to be a block from my house was brand new. Mm-hmm. And I had a real career in financial management then, but about 10 years later, I'd become friends with John Hall, the founder.
Yep.
And he needed some help, and we'd sold a company, and I had an empty space on my schedule, so I signed up and joined it.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
So what are you guys looking for in a craft brewery as a possible lending partner?
Well, I think that I don't have any unique insight beyond what we're hearing from the panel, that the price of entry is good beer, and that's at one point, as we know, up to a couple of years ago, having great beer, and there's a lot of white space and new people to sell it to. But now with the competitive playing field that we have, to me, that's the starting point. Some operational excellence around consistency and the ability to support growth in terms of safety, quality control, HR, all the generic business infrastructure with a plan, with management, with some experience, and then particularly the route to market. If we're going to grow and add capacity, we've got to answer the question credibly: who's going to drink that beer, who's going to sell it, and how we can, who are we going to take who are we going to take the share away from when we grow?
Sure. As I understand it, the age of extreme promiscuity is at an end. Do you find this disappointing?
I think that there are small pockets of promiscuity will continue to take place for explorers, but I think that
do you find that brewers tend to enjoy more of these pockets of promiscuity or less?
Look, I think the consumer, the average beer drinker and the average craft beer drinker, they're kind of, as the tent broadens, they're sort of leveling out. Yeah. And people are drinking beer for many reasons, and there'll always be explorers and promiscuous people, but a lot of people are happy in a long-term relationship with their beer.
So what's the shift been like moving from sort of an operator model to a lending model for you?
Well, yeah, I've spent my career on the other side of the desk as a borrower and filling in those reports and looking for an easy button from my banker or my source of capital. And I find that moving on the other side of the desk, that I can get to see how the financial sausage is made. And it's a little frightening place. But fortunately, I don't get too far into that. My role is to bridge the communication, to help the bankers have more insight into the industry, and to make sure that the brewers are representing themselves in the best possible way to the lenders.
Absolutely. It's a very important thing to do. Do you find that there's a sort of internal, or did you find that there was an internal resistance to the sort of brewer type, if you would? Like, if I'm coming in with a neck beard and a bunch of piercings, like were the bankers scared? Or
well, I'm pleased to say that my bankers not so much, and actually Bank of the West, little plug, has been a prominent, perhaps the country's most prominent lender to the whole wine industry. So we have a beverage vertical that's a prominent supplier of capital to Napa and Sonoma and the Pacific Northwest. In fact, my boss sits in the Napa office.
Yeah.
And so we're used to farmers, we're agricultural lenders. Understands harvests and crop cycles. They know wineries are creative people, and they understand brand building and even to distribution.
Yep.
I think that the new thing that we needed to get our arms around is the idea in beer distribution that there's this, to what the financial people is intangible asset, is the value of the franchise, the rights to distribute beer. And that's from an accounting point of view and from a financial point of view, it's kind of an odd animal until you come across it and understand it.
And any kind of fluctuation in that three-tier system is going to really change the capital needs of a brewery for good or ill.
Well, yeah, more and more, as you know, you see, particularly for smaller brewers, the direct-to-consumer model that it has both increases the revenue per barrel of beer brewed, but also is a great place for building and communicating brand. And they're more reliant on that, and I think that's why you see become the more usual business model now to build when we're small.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's closer almost to a winery model as well. The question I have for you is, there's so many prosumer kind of operations in the brewing world. People start, they start with home brewing, and then maybe they think they want to be into it with just open a couple of days a week, but they start brewing it for themselves. How well are you able to tell them the challenges of the brewing business when they walk in trying to raise capital to go into it?
Well, I have a fund of war stories, having lived pretty much every stage of the growth of craft, and all the way through our...
including the era of mass promiscuity.
Including the era of mass promiscuity, and where, as you said this morning, that every customer was the first customer, and then to the more recently, where there's it's been a fight, and differentiating a brand has been important. But the thing is that people have got to have business skills at any level in the industry now. It isn't being passionate is about your beer as a starting point, making good beer as a starting point. You've got to have the business sides together. And I think that from that point of view, craft beer is beginning to resemble a lot of mature industries. And the gravity works the same on everybody.
So how's that affecting your decision-making, this period of slower growth and gravity?
I think it's a great opportunity for us because we can differentiate ourselves as a supplier of capital by understanding that the tide isn't raising all the ships, so that we can look deeper into the operation, understand the beer and the business plan, the model, and the operating excellence, and focus on the high probability clients in our case.
Yeah. So do you expect any kind of settling out in the business anytime soon? I mean, you get a good look at lots of financials, I imagine. How are these breweries doing in terms of level financial plans and their ability to withstand this kind of slowdown?
Well, they're breweries at every stage of the life cycle, and that you have recently, brewers with recent growth who have a solid business model that fits the new reality. that are strong in the local market, have strong local consumer connections, and generating high margin revenue locally. And then there are breweries that have established distribution, have good distribution partners over many states, and they have a working model, lower revenue per barrel, but they've got the scale to be efficient.
Yep.
And then there are breweries sort of in the middle who had speculative capacity expansion, who have invested.
Unicorn models.
There are those who were looking at their growth trends, excited about it, and planned for future growth without at least expansion of capacity, without a sustaining, operational model around that. And I think that's tough for those people. For those people, the timing was bad. If you planned expansion a couple of years ago and wrote the check, built the capacity, and now you're waiting for sales.
It's a tough place to be. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think there is a leveling, and there will continue to be a shakeout.
Yeah. Now, did you go through the first boom bust in the 90s?
I joined Goose Island in 2000. So
they'd
at the
already
point that 2000, we were in a trough.
Yeah.
That as a packaging brewery, Goose started in 1995. Grew incredibly rapidly for a couple of years, and then plateaued out. So by the time that I joined, we had a very difficult business model that we were doing pretty much anything we could to keep the lights on. We were doing a lot of contract brewing. We'd outsourced a lot of operations.
But a terrific pub.
Great pub.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck.
My pleasure. Thank you.